Okay, so let's go through this test. First, we're looking to compare less than, greater than, or equal. The square root of 12 is 3.46. This is 3.50. So 46 is less than 50. Over here, if I do the square root of 1.69, I get 1.3. And here, 130%, if we move our decimal point over 2, we get 1.3. And these are equal. Number 3, if I do 5 and 1/6, I get 5.166. Over here, I get 5.160, and 166 is larger than 160, so it would go this way, greater than. And last, if I take the square root of this, I get 6.25, and 6 1/4 is 6.25. So again, we have another equal. So that's the first 4. So to do this list in order, we basically need to look up our numbers here. So first I'm going to look up the square root of 7. And the square root of 7 is 2.64. So this one is a negative 2.64, and this one is a positive 2.64. And then we just want to arrange these in order. So I'll just make kind of a number line here. And I'll put 0 here. So let's see, the largest number looks like this 11.5. So I got 11.5. The smallest looks like this negative 12. I'll put that there. And let's look at our positive numbers now. I have 1.5, 2.6, 0.75. Okay, so I'm going to put my 0.75, then a 1.5. So that's those two. If I have any more positive, I got 2.64 here. So here is our square root of 7. Go in the other direction. I'll put my negative square root of 7 here because that's negative 2.64. So that one's done. And then I have a 0.5 and a 0.55. Well, 50 is smaller than 55, so it's closer to 0. So 0.5 is here, and then further away is 0.55, and these are our negatives. So that takes out these two. 75 is the next one out, so 0.75. And then last, my negative 2. So if we were to put all these in order, I think that's everybody there, it would basically go negative 12, negative square root of 7, negative 2, negative 0.75, negative 0.55, negative 0.5. Then we get to 0, so now we're doing positives. 0.75, 1.5, square root of 7, and last are 11.5. That's the correct order there. Number 6, which shows these numbers in order, in increasing order. So it's lowest on the left and highest on the right. Well, we can see that this goes negative, positive, negative. So that can't go increasing because you can't go back to negative. Here I have negative 1/2, negative 2. Well, that's going down. That's decreasing right here. So I'm going to cross that out. Let's take a look here. Negative 2, then negative 0.75. Okay, that's getting closer to 0. 0.5 is closer to 0. 1.5, and we know that 7 is 2.60. So this looks pretty good, but I'll put a little question mark because I want to check this last one. So this is 2.64 to 1.5. That's going down. So it's not this one. So I'll definitely choose C. Number 7. This says graph these numbers. So we'll just put them on the number line. Well, 0.02 is between 0 and negative 1. So 0.02 is going to be right there. I'll just draw a little arrow to it. That's where that is. 7/10 is also less than 1. So we're going to put it right here between 0 and -1. I'm going to draw my little arrow there. Now -1 is way over here. So we'll get a fancy arrow. We'll go around the corner and point there. Square root of 2 is 1.41. So we'll put about 1.5. And then -4 is way down here. So we can kind of go around. And there are all 4 of my points. Now, this is a 5/4 here. It was hard to tell on the test, but we wrote them up on the board. So this is -1.25, which is here, between -1 and -2. 5 is pretty obvious. -2 is obvious. So we can just cross those off. Those are integers. Now, 9/2 is 4.5, so it goes here. 9/2. And then a -1. So the integers we don't need to worry too much about, but we could indicate where the fractions go. Number 9, so we got a -3 and a 2 and a 4. Those are all gimmies because those are just on the number line. Then again, I got a 5/2, which is 2.5. And a -9/4, which is 2 1/4. So that's here. That one kind of goes here and that one goes here to show all our points. Okay, on this next one, this is, about those real numbers that we're talking about. So every time one of these fits, you got to write all the number sets. So we got rational as Q and irrational as I. All the real numbers are whole W, natural N, and our integer is Z. So 7/8, -7/8 is a real number. Okay, it's also a rational number. But then you can't go any smaller than that because the next thing is the integer, and this is definitely not an integer because it's a fraction. The square root of 0.15. So if I type that in the calculator, I'm doing right now, square root of 0.15, I get a non-repeating decimal. So this is real, but it's irrational. So that's an R and a I. Okay, 18/2. Well, this almost looks like it might be irrational, but when we divide 18 by 2, we're going to get the square root of 9, and that equals 3. Well, 3, that is definitely real, and it's rational. We know it's an integer, so that's our Z, and it's also whole and natural. It's a natural number because you could see 3 cars or 3 apples. So it's in all of these groups here. Now, this here, because it's a decimal, we know it's either rational or irrational. It looks rational to me because it terminates. It's not an integer. And so we basically have rational, Q, and real. -25 is integer. It's not whole or natural because it's negative. It's also rational and real. So that's basically how these go here. Now this is find a real number between each pair. So keep in mind that your numbers could be different from mine. You could choose any number in between 6.42 and 6.50. So like it could be 6.43 or 44 or 45. Any number in between, this will work, but you want to get it between these two numbers. So like as long as it's above 6.42 something and below 6.50, like 6.49, we're okay on that. So 7/8, well, what is 7/8 equal to? So 7 divided by 8 is 0.875. So I have 0.875, and 9/10 is just 0.9. I'm going to add 2 zeros on so that we could get kind of an equivalence here. And basically any number between this 0.875 and 0.900. So 876 all the way up to 899. Any of those will work here. I already did the real number sheet in a different video, so we're going to skip to this last one here. And we're going to look at what is the mean, median, mode, minimum, all these things here. And so as I showed you, we're going to put these in the stat mode here in the calculator. It says there's something in here. I got to delete everything. So now I go to stat, I go to edit, And I'm basically going to enter in all my numbers. So 4, 15, 9, 4, 6, 11, 1, 7, 4, 7, 3, 1. Okay, so I'm there. I've got everything in. I'm going to hit the stat and go to calc, doing that one variable stat. And now as we look at these, I could see what my answers are. So the mean here is my x bar. If you remember, we did x bar, and that's 6. The median is 5. Now the mode is what happens the most. So I can see here I've got 3 4s, and nothing else appears 3 times. So I'm going to put 4 in for my mode because it appears more than anything else. My minimum value is 1. My maximum value is 15. My Q1 is 3.5. And my Q3 is 8. Okay, so as we do all of that. And I'm going to figure out our absolute deviation here. So I'm going to make a table here at the bottom. So I know that first, I know my mean is 6. So I've basically got to do all this computing here because I have to do some subtraction. So I'm going to do every one of my numbers, 4, 15, 9, 4, 6, 11, 1, 7, 4, 7, 3, 1. So you can see it kind of extends all the way down here. And I'm going to subtract 6 from each one of these. Okay? So, because that's my average, I'm just going to do minus 6 all the way down. Now, because I'm doing absolute value and distance, I'm always just going to get a positive number. So between 4 and 6 is 2. Between 15 and 6 is 9. 6 and 9 is 3. 4 and 6 is 2. And we're doing positives because this is absolute, which means the absolute value. We're always going to get a positive number. 6 and 6 are 0, and then we have a 5 and a 5. 7, 6 is 1. 2, 1, 3, and 5. So basically what you're doing is subtracting and then taking the positive number. Now what we do here is we're going to take the average of all of this right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on the calculator right now. I'm going to add everything up. So 2 plus 9 plus 3 plus 2 plus 0 plus 5 plus 5 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 5. And that gives me 38. And then my number of elements here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'm going to divide by 12. And I get 3.16 repeating. So the answer overall here is 3.16 repeating. And so that is the last one there.